Another episode of She Leads Now. We are on week 2 of the Power of Money series, cultivating financial confidence in women. And so today I have another amazing guest, Barbara Welch. And I'll share a little bit about her background, but then also have her share with you what makes her fabulous and an expert in this space and why I just had to have her on the show. So, real quick, for those of you who are listening or watching, Barbara Welch is the co-founder and managing director of Inheritance Development LLC, a firm offering business and personal finance coaching and consulting under the brand The Good Life Money Coach. She is focused on helping professionals and emerging business owners master their finances and build wealth using principles and strategies that she has practiced and developed over the last 25 years. She began her career as a banker and a part-time entrepreneur, later becoming a licensed financial advisor and building her consulting practice. With that, welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you, Sabine. Thank you so much for that introduction. So it's great. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Absolutely, really excited to have this conversation. So I shared, briefly about your bio, but if you would please share with us a little bit more about your career journey and what has led you to, really own this space of supporting people in, building their finances and building their longer term wealth.
Okay, well, I'll give you a summarized version of my professional journey. After I earned a bachelor's of business administration from Howard University, I started my career as a banker and offering financial services for individuals and small businesses and retail banking. At that time, it was one of the largest regional banks in Michigan, and has since been bought out by a super regional. But that's where I found my interest and my passion for really helping people to build wealth and to master their finances, and become better small business people. So that's where I started my career, and then I also during that same time I started my first business. And at Howard, I was exposed to Black art that I had never seen before, coming from a smaller city in Western Michigan. And so I was able to make contacts while I was a student and bring that art back with me. And so I launched my very first business as a young professional, and while I was building my career as a banker. So that was my first business to really be in a position to really understand my customers, my business customers, because I too was a business owner. I then went on to co-found a business with my husband in the 90s. We started one of the first Black owned network marketing businesses in the US. And we did that for a number of years, and I say that business failed, and but we failed forward, and really used that to catapult us. And we learned from that experience. I later became a licensed financial professional and a registered investment advisor, taking principles that I learned from that failed business, which created the 8 principles that I then used with my clients. And I was able to start a financial education firm called the Good Life Financial Education Company, helping if individuals and families manage their finances. And then my most recent endeavor has been inheritance development, which I bring all of that business and finance, coaching, consulting, as well as real estate investing under one entity, and helping individuals build wealth. So that is in a really very summarized version of my professional journey.
I love it. Thank you. And I love the way that you framed, the business failure as we failed forward, right? Because I feel like in business, if you're not failing, then you're not growing. And, what really delineates those who are able to succeed, if you will, or pick back up, are the ones who are able to find the lessons learned through that
Mhm.
process and be able to come back stronger, which it sounds like you've been able to do through your other business ventures.
Yes, absolutely. And I had to learn that though, when you're experiencing that failure, it's difficult to see how that's taking you forward. But again,
Absolutely.
it's developing that mindset, that exactly as you said it. If you're not trying things, everything you try is not going to be successful. So you have to be willing to fail, and you're going to move forward from that. So I'm a firm believer in that. I think you're muted, Sabine. Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay.
Okay. Am I back?
Yes. Yes, you're
Okay.
back.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. Okay. So you have been in this space for 25 years. And so for those who are catching us live, just want to give a little premise behind this whole series. I really feel like, and not just like I feel it, but I feel it literally. And, as we look at the trends in the marketplace, women are starting businesses at a rate that's higher than before. We're in a space where women have had to take control of their careers and their finances due to the pandemic and due to other things that have been happening, just around us and in the marketplace. And so, I'm curious, as you've been going through your business, are you seeing a shift in terms of your client base in more women coming to you for longer term financial planning or to make different decisions, or has it pretty much been straightforward throughout the last few years?
I think just with the economic boom that we experienced in the last several years, um, and coupled with COVID and people having that time to kind of pull back and really assess where they are and where they want to be, I have seen more interest in business and women wanting to start businesses and really taking those ideas and actually getting them to market. So I certainly have seen more of that and more interest in um, individuals, young professionals, professionals that represent, all generations, wanting to make sure that they're okay financially. And so I definitely, I think this has been an environment that has just caused people to um, want to just take note and assess where they are. We are understanding that, we're not going to be here forever. So, what does my legacy look like? Wanting their children to be in a good place. And so I think this environment has definitely had some positives and really encourage people to really step out and take advantage of now, because tomorrow is not promised.
True. Yes, that is very true. So let's dig deep into this, right? Because as we were talking before in the green room, so to speak, this is an opportunity. I feel like there's an opportunity here to really help empower women. Really all genders, but certainly obviously it's she leads now. So the focus is really on empowering women
Mhm.
in getting or building healthier relationships with money. And so, many of the people that are in my tribe, they are professionals who have like mid careers. They've been in their businesses for a while, financially, right, on so many different levels, like from what comes in looks healthy on the outside. But then certainly I feel like there's this opportunity for us to step into an even larger realm. And so what have you noticed from the clients that you work with and even the work that you do, where women in particular might be holding themselves back when it comes to really
Mhm.
embracing that relationship and really looking at it from the standpoint or the mindset of how can I grow? How can I keep? How can I multiply more of what I am bringing in?
Yes, so I think you're asking me a couple things there, right? So, um, what are like maybe what where are women missing the mark
Mm,
as they're looking at their finances, and then how can they grow and keep more money, right? So
correct.
okay. So I would say that what I think it's really been for many years because I think it goes back to a mindset. Regardless of where we are, with our economy, regardless of where we might be personally in our finances, I think what I've seen personally, a lot of women where they miss the mark is they can misread their success in one area
Mm,
as being automatic in how you successfully manage your finances. I think that's a big piece. So they may be a great earner, but then they lack the skill set to really manage their finances and really maximize those. So they're not making good decisions. And so I think that is something that's really kind of prevalent in our society, especially when um, when we are experts in a field and we have a lot of notoriety around that. We can fool ourselves into thinking that that just automatically projects in one area of our lives. So that's definitely an area where I think women have missed the mark. One has nothing to do with the other. The other is just making poor decisions due
wait,
to a lack of vision. Go ahead. No,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Barbara. Before you go, you go into the next point there. I think that that's a key thing that you just said, right? That we can misread success in one area and completely be blindsided, if you will, on okay, well, what does that mean holistically? And so I just
Yeah.
wanted to take a pause there because oftentimes we hear the term wealth, right? And we hear wealth, but we also most of the time associate wealth with money or wealth with
Mhm.
okay what we have left over after we've spent, right? But really if we look at wealth building and legacy building, it's really a holistic thing. That's your mental, emotional, spiritual, like everything about you, who you are in building wealth. And so I just wanted to take a moment to pause because I felt like that was a mic drop moment. And if
Mhm.
you wouldn't mind, before you go into the next thing, as you think
Yeah.
about missing or misdiagnosing success in one
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
it has greater long-term impact on different areas of our lives, right? Not just the money and how we save and all those other things. Are there any other areas in our lives where you've seen that that blind spot, if you will, has affected and has impacted other areas of our lives or
Yeah, I
careers?
mean, I think you're right on, Sabine. When we look at our finances, it really is many times a symptom of other areas that we want to work on. So we really do need to take this holistic approach. So um, you know, we may feel that it's just a matter of not having enough money or not having that particular strategy, but sometimes it's just those overarching principles that are important in any area of our lives. And I talk about these. These are the principles that I have built a philosophy around. There are 8 principles that spell the good life. It spells an acrostic. And so, just quickly, I mean, sometimes the blind spot could be that we are not grateful, okay, or we're not operating from a generous place. It could be that we lack discipline, so we haven't built that resilience to really be consistent over the long haul. We're not willing to continue to grow and learn, to be a lifelong learner, and to invest in ourselves, not just financially, right? But invest in ourselves in a holistic way. So we are considering that investing in ourselves means socially, it means emotionally, it means spiritually, and so it's as well as our health. And so all of these areas impact us and have everything to do with success in our lives, including financial success.
Mhm.
I love that question, and and it's really um, exactly my approach when I'm working with my clients is that you have to, in order to live a life that you imagine, it cannot be one particular area. You have to constantly be working on your entire person,
Yeah.
all of the time, to really be able to enjoy your life, because you can be that great, you can have that great career and have a great income, but if you're not healthy, then you're not going to enjoy your life. If you're not grateful, if you don't have relationships to share your life with, then you're really not going to lead the life that you desire, the good life.
Absolutely. I love that. And, I think the other thing that, goal that I have for this series is really getting us comfortable talking about money, because so much
Hmm.
of our lives, right, our reality is surrounded by it. And I have a lot of clients, again, clients who are professionals, clients who are entrepreneurs, clients who are running organizations that are women, and they have these stories about money, and they have these fears about money, and you see it in their decision making, right? Like, you see how it's impacting not just them but everything around them. And so it's
Hmm.
really getting to that place, or my goal here is to really get to that place where we can, demystify what it means,
Yes.
to have money, to want to grow money as women, so that we can see that, we can strip away if we've attached money with our worthiness or
Hmm.
our worth, right?
Hmm.
How is that
Hmm.
showing up in different areas in our lives, right? How are
Yes.
we reinforcing that we don't believe we're worthy in different areas of our lives because we don't, because of that relationship with money? Or, consequently, like, what does that look like at work? Like, if you're not willing to ask for a promotion because you've been the interim something, for months, or you want to go after a promotion. And so it's really getting us to this place where we can release all of these. I had one guest talk about money wounds, right? Release some of
Mhm,
these money wounds so that we can
mhm,
get to the heart of, okay, it's not just about the money. Yes, we're talking about money because it's paper, it's the resource, but think
right.
about how our beliefs around that
Mm,
impact and have affected negatively all different areas of our lives. And how do we break that cycle?
mhm. No, that's it. I mean, that's really good, Sabine, and I totally agree with everything you're saying there, and I would I just really um it just really goes back to that holistic approach to how you live your life, and then how it impacts you financially. So you're saying, how you're showing up to work, and how that's impacting you. What is how do you feel about yourself, and how are you showing up, and how are you continuing to work on yourself? So why isn't it that you're getting these opportunities to for promotions, or um, why is it that year after year you're not able to hit some of these milestones that you have, financially and personally? And so it really goes back to just doing that hard work, the hard work of working on yourself, the hard work of being accountable, and showing up to heal in those areas, to be honest with yourself. A lot of times, the very thing that might give you the breakthrough in your finances um, can could be just stepping away from a lot of that and working on yourself. It might be talking to somebody, and it might be just focusing on your health. It might just be focusing on healing in relationships. So finding out examining what I call the good life stealers. So what is stealing that life from you, and then really working on that area, and overcoming that. And then, it's because we are always growing as individuals, and we have our whole lives, the rest of our lives in front of us. We're always working on things, and just realizing that. And so understanding that you have to be a lifelong learner, and things are going to come up. We're going to be triggered by different events in life, and so we have to keep growing, as individuals, and just really having that be a part of, um, the part of how you live. That you're going to keep growing, you're going to keep learning, you're going to
Yeah.
keep overcoming, and then begin to practice these new behaviors, these new mindsets. And as you see the results, use that to keep propelling you forward.
Yeah. So from what it sounds like, we're both saying that it's not enough to just have the mindset of, I want to make more money, right? Or like, I want to generate more revenue in my business, right? That's great. But
Mm-hmm.
we know that, success is 80% mindset, right? And 20% the
Yes.
execution. So what we're trying to drive home here is that, making the money is one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
really doing that self work and that self examination to see how, how your beliefs, how the other parts of your life, if you will, are in
Mm-hmm.
reaction to that. Because we can all work 20 hours a week or 20 hours a day and make all
Mm-hmm.
the money, but then at some point our health is going to suffer, our relationships are going to suffer,
Mm-hmm.
our ability to service others are going to suffer. So it's
Yes.
moving away from, how do I allow this tool, right, to support me in doing what it is that I need to do? How do I make it so that I embrace, every area of my life, to holistically look at, what does it mean to build wealth? And so, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there are women that you've worked with who have come into your practice, and they're excelling, like they've figured it out, or maybe through your help they figured it out. What are some of the key behaviors or characteristics that you've noticed about these women who, are excelling in this space, versus the ones who may just be starting out, or the ones who are on their journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, characteristics, and it's when you talk about these women, what comes to my mind is that, these women represent all kind of industries. They represent, generations from baby boomers to Gen Zers. um it's the behaviors, right? It's the mindsets that, really put them in a position to be able to be successful. So they are comfortable, they're genuine, they're comfortable in their skin. These are women who are, confident. They, um, are, and when I say they're confident, I think one thing I want to really, bring out is that confidence keeps them from comparing themselves, right? They're in their lane, and, they are, they're good at what they do, and are comparing their selves only to their last level of success, and they're moving forward. And, the comparison thing is, can be very debilitating. And
Yeah.
because there's, especially now, with, this is kind of society we live in, with, our ability at any moment to, see so many other individuals in the very same space doing exactly what you do. You have to be someone that is, so focused and so confident to not compare yourself. And, these women understand that, there are a myriad of ways to accomplish success. And so the best course of action is to continue to focus on what is working for them, and continue to develop that, and stay true to that. And I would say that that is one of the most important characteristics that I see in successful women, that I have the privilege of working with. and they enjoy life. These are people they just have inner joy and a peace as they live out their lives. Not that everything is perfect, but they do have a joy and a peace about life. And they are trying to enjoy their lives, and they're trying to they work because they want to be able to do some things and have some things and spend time with people that they love. And so it's the seemingly simple things that, again, Sabine, like we've been talking about, that really take that work, that inner work, that in order to be able to have these characteristics to be a part of who you are, to have this type of mindset. So those would be the things that really stand out to me when I talk about successful women.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you hit on, you hit on a really good point there around confidence, right? And so often, especially we as women, right, we hear that word and we know that most of the time the thing that keeps us back, right? That it keeps everyone back, right? It's just that inner confidence of
Mhm.
yes, I can do this. Yes, I have the skill set to do it. Yes, I have the capacity to do it. But I think, like confidence, I feel like is one of those words like purpose, right? Like
Mhm.
it's hard at times to
Mhm.
pinpoint, well, what does that actually look like? What does that mean? What are the behaviors? Like, how do I make this concrete? And I think one of the things that you just did just now was give us an example of how to measure someone's confidence, right? Or give us a strategy of how to be more confident within yourself. And that's simply avoiding that comparison trap.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. Like that, especially in the day of highlight reels that we live in today, right? It's easy to get on even LinkedIn now or Instagram or anything else. And everybody is just like, oh, you need to be a 6, 7, 8 figure coach and, you need to be
Yes.
making X number of dollars. And so, for somebody who's not in that space, it's easy to just be like, well, I'm not there yet. What's wrong with me?
Mhm.
Why am I not making it? And that creates a whole lot of, defeating. It just feeds the defeating mindset within us. And then our value and our self-worth gets tied into the money that we're making or we're not making. And
Yes.
so
So true.
focus yeah, shifting the focus on, what are you doing? Like how are you showing up better than you were before? What are you doing to invest in your financial IQ? What are you doing to invest in individuals who can support you so that you can continue to grow and not care about, what Karen or Melissa or whoever else what they're
Yes.
making and where they are, but how do you focus on growing? And that in and of itself gives you confidence. That in and of itself gives you, the pride in knowing
Mhm.
that you're moving forward.
Yeah, and that's a growth mindset, right? So, women that think that way, they believe that they can grow. They believe that they can acquire that skill set. They believe that they can build a network around them. So it's about having that growth mindset versus that limited mindset. They believe in abundance and that there's, more than enough. And so it makes all the difference. It's got to be that core. Everything builds on that. Not that these other things are not important. The technical is important, but sometimes the technical does not stick. It's not sticky because you don't have a foundation to build on. So
Yeah.
very important. Very, very key.
So let me ask you this question. So, when we talk about growth mindset, let's say someone comes to you and their mindset, right, or what they propose to be a growth mindset is, I want to grow my wealth, or I want to grow,
Mhm,
my finances, right? What I'm hearing you say is that's not the
mhm.
growth mindset, right? That's a desire that you have. But the growth
Yes.
mindset is really taking that step back and saying, I want to grow, and this is what I'm willing to do, or this is what I'm willing to explore to be able to grow into that space. Is that
Yes,
correct?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it is. It's the belief that it's possible, but then it's the action behind it.
Yeah.
right? So you're actually taking the steps and doing the work to get to get the results. And and the belief part is huge, right? So you do have to, um, you know, if you have a more of a limited mindset, then internally you're playing this tape all the time, right? That
Yeah.
it's not possible, things can't change. This is how, I don't come from the right background. This is just the way it is. And so it's, there is a lot going on internally. Um, and mentally that has to be changed in order to find yourself in a more abundant or a more growth mindset. So it is more than just mentally ascending to it, right? Or just speaking it. It is building the ability, building that, the skill sets that result in having that growth mindset. And, many times we want to read a book or we want to listen to a podcast, but then after it, right, you've got to do the work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you need a strategy and a plan. You need accountability. You have to be working on the right things in order
Right.
to get the results.
Right. So for those who are listening, or for those who are watching who are, they're really working hard towards it, right? Like where
Hmm.
it's a focus for them. They realize that, maybe in the past, they've hindered themselves just because of their mindset, and they're really thinking to themselves, all right, look, I have all of these messages and I know where my messages come from, or I'm trying to figure out where these messages come from. For someone just starting out, and again, obviously we're talking about professional, accomplished women here who are very intelligent in their own right, but
Yes.
this seems to be an area that eludes them, right? So outside of having the belief, outside of having the desire, what are some of the things that they can start to do to say, okay, I am here and I want to be here? How do I
Hmm.
start to make that transition? What are some of the practical tools that I can apply, or practical steps that I can, begin to take to help me move towards a growth mindset when it comes to money, move towards a more, a higher financial IQ when it comes
Hmm.
to growing or multiplying the resources that I do have.
Hmm. Well, when I start working with a client, what I'm always the first thing that we're going to do is assess where they are. So where are you? We're then going to make sure that we're on the same page and understanding um, our approach to um, a plan of action and how we're going to be working together. So, after, huge part of it is just really assessing where you are. So, where are you in the process of when we look at earning? Okay, where are you? Where are you as far as saving and investing? Where are you with regard to protecting your income? So we're looking at these different areas of your finances. I like to use another acrostic that spells bright, BRITE. So we're looking at the basics, right? And so that's going to be just again, you're looking at where you are from an earning standpoint, where you are with your systems for managing your finances. What does your credit look like? Where are you with um, having your different products and financial services in place? We're going to be looking at things like that. We're going to look at where are you with regard to long term investing or are for retirement. So as you look at retirement, so are you participating in your retirement plan that's provided by your employer, or if you're self-employed, do you have a plan in place? And we'll start then looking at what that looks like, and based on where you are in your time horizon, um, what those investments should look like. But high level, then we're going to look at I, and I is where we're going to look at again, we're going to look at your investments and your insurances, um, because that's going to be important for how you're protecting your finances. And then we're going to look at your situation, your tax strategy for T, and E for estate planning. So, do you have an estate plan in place? Which again takes us back to our insurances. It also starts talking about having a will in place, um, and protecting your family when as you look to age and have this full life, but then pass on. And so those are like the major areas that we're assessing, and we're drilling down in those areas, right? But when we start just looking at our finances, and we're starting to look at just taking that same acrostic and drilling down over time. So that's a very high level
Mhm.
of what begins to start happening when you want to look at where you are financially. And then we start doing some assessment around your personality, your financial personality, and what drives you, what is most important to you. How do you describe that life that you desire to live? So what are your values? And then those values that you espouse, are those reflected in how you're managing your money? How you're making spending decisions, and those how you are the, those the things that are most important to you, and the way you define the life that you want to lead. How is that working out for you? And then how do we start overcoming the obstacles, the mindset, the behaviors that are preventing that? So we start then looking at bringing these principles in, that lay that foundation for you to build on. So that's where the 8 principles come in. So we start looking at, how grateful you are. Are you thinking outwardly? So do you live a life that is just centered around, you and your family, or are you giving? Are you, there's lots of research around being a generous person, and that how it insulates you from greed. And we know greed can ruin you financially. So in a nutshell, we start really looking at how some really foundational industry wide financial necessities are then coupled with this mindset and these behaviors that are imperative to really being able to be successful financially, and live the life that you imagine. So
Thank you.
I don't
I
know how much
appreciate
time I have, Sabine. So I
No,
just
no, I greatly appreciate that breakdown because it really shows you, how like your paycheck or whatever you get from, your clients is only the very first step. Now, how are you directing those resources? How are you stewarding it through all
Mhm,
these different buckets that, create this holistic picture of who you are and your wealth foundation? And so, one of the questions or one of the comments on here talks about, uh, for individuals who have been in a space of living paycheck to paycheck, right? And
mhm,
I've been there, and I know a ton of people, even who make a lot of money, who have been in that space. And I know that psychologically, emotionally, everything, that is a horrible place for people to be in. And
mhm,
it's
mhm,
hard to see sometimes, well, if I'm not making enough, right?
mhm,
How do I now even start to think about putting money away from life insurance and putting money away from this? And it seems like there's not enough to begin
mhm,
with. And so, how do
mhm,
you help individuals who are in that space cope
mhm,
with, or even just expand their awareness to the point of, yes, it is enough, right? Like,
yes,
yes, you can
mhm,
make contributions to something.
mhm. I what I love about what I do is that it's really birthed out of myself and my husband living according to these principles. Just the good life is it is just a result of something I needed in my life when we were going through a very difficult time. So I talked about a business failure and how we failed forward, but that business failure caused us, a great, just huge financial difficulties. We had some really rough years, and I just hearing a message at church that talked about it, a scripture that talked about living the good life, Ephesians 2:10, and how we are a work of art. We are created as a work of art, and we were created to live the good life, and we were given paths to take in order to achieve that, right? And that really resonated with me, and that's where these principles were birthed out of, because I had to decide that living the good life started today, even though everything around me looked otherwise. It was contrary to just the very statement that my life was good. But it had to start with that affirmation and that belief that I was created to live a good life. And so it started with just finding little ways to have that show up in my life. And it was just one day at a time led to, 1 month, 1 year. And then we look up, right? And we are in the middle of the good life. And so it does start. It starts by these principles. Everyone has something to be grateful for. Everyone. So you can have just experienced a bankruptcy, but just by the mere fact that you woke up and you have a day in front of you to move forward and have that bankruptcy be one day behind you, 1 month behind you, 1 year behind you, is something to be grateful for. The breath in our the just the breath in our lungs that we can be grateful for. I run out of time. I start my day every day with gratitude, and I run out of time because it is endless, the things that we are grateful for and what it does for you psychologically. I mean, what it does for you. If we really just want to talk about from a pure physiological standpoint and what it does to our brains, we are the way that we've been created. We can change things if we want them to be changed. So just every day talking about what you're grateful for, you actually change your brain. Our brains are neuroplastic. That means that they can change. We can change the pathways in our brain. We can change the way we think. And so a lot of the turmoil, a lot of the trauma that we suffer, it's a form of brain damage, right? And so by having just a different way of thinking and different behaviors, we actually physically change our brains. And so then we build on, you just keep building on that. So now we're feeling better. We've got more energy. We've got the ability to focus more. So we can start finding our way out of these situations. So it really starts with, what we are speaking, what we are believing, what we are putting in our bodies. So you're going through a difficult time, but try to buy the best food you can buy, because you're feeding your systems, you're feeding your brain, and you need that in order to be able to fight through, in order to be, to have that resiliency to overcome. So I tell you, I know anybody, it does not matter where they are in this journey. These principles work. They really do. And so
Mhm.
that would be, my advice. Start where you are. Just start, get up in the morning, be grateful. Do something for someone else. Get outside of yourself. Don't, in the pity party, give yourself 5 minutes for a pity party and then move on. And then start operating. Yeah, that gives you the strength to look at those finances. Okay, maybe you haven't been able to pay, bills. Maybe you can't, but you can get on the phone and you can start having some conversations. You can put a plan in place. You can believe that you can get that better position and start earning a little bit additional income. day by day. It can happen.
Yeah. And I think that that's the important piece, right? The thing that you said at the end, well, you said a lot that was important in that. So thank you. But mostly let's start having conversations, right? Because I think that it's very easy. And I think back to, my low points, right? It's so easy to fall for the lie that you're the only one going through this, right? And then,
Mhm.
all of the shame, all of the guilt, all of the emotions that with that, it becomes almost debilitating to even think like, what am I gonna say to someone? And God forbid, like, I ask for advice because again, we live out of these ideal selves
Mhm.
often, right? Where it's like, I can't let anyone know what I'm going through because of fear of judgment or anything else like that. And so I love the fact that you're reiterating that the only way for us, or one of the best ways for us to get out of the situations that we are in, is one, acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge
Mhm.
where you are. Two,
Mhm.
seek help. Seek the
Mhm.
support, whether it's of a professional or someone that you trust, right? And then
Mhm.
ask for what you need. We don't have time to get into the whole asking, right? Because that's
Yes.
usually another space, because sometimes we may end up in financial situations, and sometimes it's just out of ignorance because we don't know any better. Sometimes it's because we miscalculated, if you will,
Mhm.
a decision
Mhm.
or a risk. But it's like, you can never get out if you're asking yourself, like, you didn't have the answers, which is why you're in there, right? So how do
Yes.
we
Yes.
leverage the brain trust of the people who are around us to ask those questions, to get the information? And then while we're taking the baby steps, if you will, to dig ourselves out of that ditch, what does that
Mhm.
look like in our daily practice? I think the practice of gratitude
Mhm.
is such a huge piece. Like, it will literally shift your life. I feel like gratitude has like superpowers.
I agree.
Whereas it
I
doesn't
agree.
matter where you are, when you can start to look at the blessings that are in your life, and then eventually you get to the place where you even look at those pit moments as
Mhm.
blessings in themselves, and ways for them to
Mhm.
expand you. One of the books that I was reading, it talks about how oftentimes we want to label the pit experiences or the not so pleasant experiences in our lives as bad, but I can really think back and trace back to every negative pit experience that I had, whether it was related to money or business or career or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
that it was a direct reflection of something that I had prayed for, of something that I had asked for. And so, as
Mhm.
we're wrapping up here, I want to leave the
Wow.
encouragement for those of you who are listening, or even those of you who are watching. Sometimes the storm is the blessing, the storm is answered prayer, the
Mhm.
storm is exactly the thing that you need, whether it's financial or otherwise, to help grow you or to help strengthen you for the thing that you've been looking for. So, if you're in a space where you're in a pit and you're learning to climb out, Barbara has given a lot of really great practical tools and tips of things that you can do on today, but also look at it and think back to, what have I asked for? And then I'll leave this one thing. I remember a few years ago, before I left, or before I started my business, I prayed and I asked for a heart that was
Mhm.
just as big, because I'm a giver, right? And so I was just
Mhm.
like, God, give me a heart to receive just as
Mhm.
big as I have a heart to give, right? And of course,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
get excited about that type of prayer. You're like, oh yes, I'm about to receive. Well, guess what? I faced the lowest financial low that I had ever faced up until that point. And not only that, but the miracle in that process was that people were giving to me, right? I didn't have to call
Mhm.
people to ask. Like, people would just be like, you know what? I felt led, or it was put on my heart to, send you this money. Like, what is your Venmo?
Mhm.
What is your Cash App? Right. And in that space, like, obviously, there's fear, there's all this other stuff going on,
Mhm.
but I could literally see that I was in a position to receive,
Mhm.
based off of the prayer. So I say all that to
Yes.
say, sometimes people are in different spaces, right? And we never know where they are from a mindset perspective, but just know
Mhm.
that, wherever you are today, let today be day one. Let
Yes.
tomorrow be day two, and just focus on there and taking baby steps towards whatever financial future that you desire that's been placed on your heart, and that you know that you have the capacity that to actually move towards.
Yes, I love that, Sabine. Yeah, great advice, great encouragement. Yeah, life is good today. It doesn't have to be this far off thing. There's something good about life in this very moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this conversation was definitely that for me. So as we're wrapping up here, Barbara, I would love for you to share with the audience, how can they get in touch with you if they're looking for support, if they're looking or ready to ask for guidance around, building a stronger relationship with their money and their finances overall. How can people get in touch with you? What do you have going on?
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Sabine. I am on LinkedIn and Facebook at the Good Life Money Coach. And my website is thegoodlifemoneycoach.com. And I'd love to invite you all to join the wait list to be notified when my first course launches. So today, I'm very excited to announce the launch of my new brand, The Good Life Money Coach, offering financial and business coaching, consulting, and on demand classes. So, my first course will launch very soon, and I would love for your guests to sign up on my wait list. So thank you.
Awesome. All right. So we will include those links in the show notes, and I'll go back for those of you who are watching live and put it in the comments. Of course, like Barbara's mentioned, please feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn and connect with her on Facebook. Let her know that you heard her on the She Leads Now podcast. Barbara, before we let you go for the day and for the week, since it is Friday, is there any tidbits of advice or wisdom that you would like to share with the audience?
Wow, I think I would just like to reiterate. I think my greatest message to people is to not put life off for the future. Don't put your joy, your enjoyment of life off at a future date. Start living your life today. Decide that the good life is exactly where you are, and start making that a reality, whatever that is, and in the simplest of ways. If that's some getting some fresh flowers in your home, if that's just cleaning up your apartment, if that's making a call to a loved one, to just tell them that you love them, but make today the start of living that good life.
I love it. I love it. Well, I could certainly talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, sharing your expertise. For those of you who are watching live, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for engaging in the comments. Both Barbara and I will be sure to go back and address those comments, once we're done here. We will be back next week with another amazing woman expert in the space of money. And so this series will go on the entire quarter of Q2 all the way through June 30th. This is also financial literacy month, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't even plan it that way, to be quite honest, but I think that this is a great way to kick off the month and to kick off this particular season. So if you have specific questions or if there are specific topics that you would like us to cover, feel free to send me a message. If we're not connected, let's change that and let's get connected. And I look forward to serving alongside with these women experts who are giving up of their time and of their expertise to ensure that women can build their financial confidence and their financial consciousness, so that we can continue to advance in the work and in the impact that we've already begun. So with that, have a great rest of the day. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back next week. Take care.